Professor,
How are you doing? Okay.
as on 1870, we just wanted to follow up the meeting of today. First, the focus of the meeting.
The subject matter was best path to a prosperous Zimbabwe, and the keynote was presented by Minister Padu, who is the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Relations for Africa.
Okay, and what was the main of your presentation?
My thrust was, in order to craft the best path to a problem, we must have clarity on the nature and character of the problems in Zimbabwe. And two dimensions, and the economic dimension. But the political dimension is important than the economic, foundational, and it affects our efforts to resolve our economic challenges. And in terms of that economic dimension, my emphasis was to say, if you look at the history of Zimbabwe, 2002, 2008, 2015, and 28, the major issue is arising from dispute. Things that have to be done is resolving the management and organization of our elections in Zimbabwe. In other words, putting in place electoral reforms, political reforms, media reforms, so that we can conduct in the country credible by those with instructions on but we also get two types of sanctions that we put upon ourselves and sanctions that I call my nature for this
Professor, there are people who are complaining that the sun.
Okay.
So I will send you I will send you a string that you can then use. You can take yourself off the you don't want your video to be shown. Yeah, let's see what. Okay, that was Professor Mutambara giving us an update on the ended. That's what we have as update. You're talking about sanctions. He's talking about elections. Obviously, Professor Mutambara, he will be activations. It would look like he is in the ring. So we wait to hear from the professor whether he is is a player in 2023. So that's so back shot. Let's see whether that would do the trick. So if you have any questions for Prof, just hang on for a few seconds. We should have him back. And see, my connection seems to be bad. So, so I'm still waiting for connection. Okay, just a second. My connection is not so kosher, strict. Still. No. So we seem to have some progress. The connection is back. Hello? Yes, sir.
What is the problem?
Yeah, no, it's not your I've sent the WhatsApp link.
WhatsApp link.
Yeah.
And then how?
Then just press that one. It will take you to the meeting room.
But how does it move the video?
No, you can just switch off the video.
How do I do that?
There is a portion where there is a video.
Okay,
And you just click on it and it will just be the voice. So he is trying to connect and we can hear from him what what is his take on the Zimbabwean crisis, the Zimbabwean problem. So hopefully we can get we should have the professor back with us. Yeah, he's got it now. So any questions that you have for the professor? That's the former Deputy Prime Minister under the Gov Unity. Let's hear whether he is through the ring. He is about election and fairness of elections. Yenyewa says something. Good evening. So let's see whether we can professor to join us. Just give us a few minutes. You know, up. Good evening, Simbarashe. Good evening. Yenyewa Edith says, I'm now a celebrity. Thank you, Mr. Mawere. Too many friend requests. So, yeah, thank you for, yeah. Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Is the video off?
The video is off. The professor, to all the listeners and all the people who are looking at this video, you won't see professor's face. He says it's but his voice is with us. So let's get on with it. You were talking about.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I was explaining that. Where do I start now? Where do I start?
You can start again so that people who didn't catch what you were saying, they can be able to hear what you said. You had a meeting today where Zimbabwe was a focal point or subject.
The subject of the discussion was that the best path to a prosperous Zimbabwe. And the keynote was the Minister of International Relations, Minister Dr. Pado. And so that was the discussion today. My major contribution was to say, in order to craft the best path to a prosperous Zimbabwe, we must understand the nature and character of the Zimbabwean problems. Number one, there are political problems, and secondly, there are economic problems. and the two are interrelated. But more importantly, it is important that we resolve the political challenges, because without resolving the political challenges, it will be very difficult for us to craft solutions to matters of our economy. In particular, I emphasize that in Zimbabwe, the major issue is around the management and governance of our electoral processes, the management of our elections. We must come up with electoral reforms, media reforms, electoral reforms to ensure that when we do go to elections, our elections are transparent, our elections are credible, our elections are free and fair, such that the outcome of the elections is not challenged by those who have supposedly lost the elections. The major cause of polarization in the country is the matter of the dispute outcome of our elections in 2018. This problem has been with us for the past almost 20 years now. 2002, there was a disputed outcome of the elections. 08, the same. 2013, to a lesser extent. 2018, we have a problem. So one of the fundamental issues we must address is, how do we organize our elections? How do we manage our elections in a manner that the outcome of those elections is acceptable to all participants? That is the first major issue I emphasized. Secondly, coming to sanctions, my view is that sanctions are just but a symptom. They are not the problem in Zimbabwe. Number one, what is the reason why sanctions have been imposed on Zimbabwe? We must address those reasons. We must resolve those matters so that we can preempt the motivation behind those who have imposed sanctions on us. Secondly, there are two types of sanctions. There are sanctions imposed upon us by foreigners, America, Britain, and Europe. Then there are sanctions we impose upon ourselves, self-imposed sanctions, corruption, misgovernance, human rights violations, rigging of elections. All these things we do control. Rather than run around like headless chickens, asking foreigners to remove sanctions on Zimbabwe, we as Zimbabweans must remove the sanctions we are imposing upon ourselves. We must change the things we control. When we do so, we make more sense to Europe. We make more sense to America. We make more sense to Britain when we ask them to remove their own measures. By the way, I do not support sanctions on Zimbabwe. However, I feel it is a red herring. It is a symptom. The major and fundamental issues are about things that are within our ambit, things that we do control as Zimbabweans. Beyond politics, we need ideas around the economy. We need a shared national vision. We need a national strategy about the economy. We need a national brand. We need a conversation around, investment, manufacturing. But all those things can't take place when MPs from the opposition are running away from parliament when Mnangagwa walks into parliament. When members of the ruling party, MPs, are running away from BT and his committee, the PAC, we are polarized. We must address the issues that have led to the polarization in our country. And beyond that, of course, we must have ideas on economics. We must think about economic integration. We must talk about, fourth industrial revolution, technology, and all these good things. It's not enough to solve politics. It is what we call in mathematics a necessary but not sufficient condition for prosperity in Zimbabwe. We need both solutions to the economy and solutions to politics. But the politics is so fundamental and must come first.
Okay, and so there you are. That was Professor Arthur Mutambara, former Deputy Prime Minister of the Republic of Zimbabwe during the government of national unity, giving his take on what he thinks the time is in Zimbabwe. He says,
yes, and also to emphasize that while Zimbabweans are going to be masters on their own destiny, while the solutions to Zimbabwe will come from Zimbabweans, it is important that the South Africans, the Zambians, and the Nigerians realize that prosperity for Zimbabwe means prosperity for SADC. Prosperity for Zimbabwe means prosperity for the continent. They must take a vested interest approach in the resolution of the Zimbabwean problems because we are all Africans. Good old-fashioned Pan-Africanism. South Africa won't make it as South Africa. They're going to make it as SADC. They're going to make it as the African continent. We must help each other as Africans to resolve matters within our countries because the success of Zimbabwe is the success of SADC. The Zimbabwean success is also African success.
so what were the conclusions reached at the meeting, if any?
No conclusions. I think there was an understanding that we need to have a more detailed discussion on explicit things to be done. We need a much more inclusive approach where more Zimbabweans are involved, where more stakeholders are involved, and then we have clarity on number one, the framework of the discussion, the matters
All
to be
right.
addressed, but
So,
at the center of the discussion must be the Zimbabweans themselves.
so were you happy with the proceedings?
Not really, because I would have wanted to see more Zimbabwean constituencies represented. It was mainly DECO and the issue of global dialogue, but it was a start. It was a start. And by the way,
Okay.
we can't be waiting for South Africa to solve our problems for us. So I'm grateful there was a meeting, but we need to do more if we're going to be effective and successful in the resolution of the Zimbabwean challenges, if we're going to craft a path to a prosperous Zimbabwe. We need more work.
All right. Welcome, Shanamure. Good evening.
Good evening, Tuma. Good evening, Professor.
Yeah, we can't hear you. Can you speak up? It's raining here, so I'm not sure whether
Okay,
it's raining.
Can you hear?
Yeah.
Good evening, Professor Mutambara.
How are you doing, my brother?
I'm okay, thanks.
Okay.
So go ahead. Do you have a question?
Yes, well, Professor, I think I have a very different point of view. I accept what you say in part, and there is no doubt that in Zimbabwe we have a multifaceted problem, which you have so rightfully identified in terms of mismanagement, in terms of corruption, in terms of sanctions. However, I really think we need to get our definitions correct. When we talk about sanctions, I think we should not mix them with mismanagement and corruption. I think we have to be very clear. And I think that's one of the things that we should demand from our government, to say we need to quantify the effects of sanctions in Zimbabwe so that it will allow us to actually be able to quantify the impact that corruption is having on our country, that mismanagement is having on our country. Because what I seem to see is that we have a situation where everything is being lumped into sanctions, and the government is hiding by that same type of definition, where every problem that is conceivable in our country becomes a result of sanctions. So I think we have to be very careful there and make those definitions quite clear.
All right. And so let's put Professor Ed under the spotlight. Are you running in 2023?
Very bad. Can someone help me? What is the question? The line is very bad.
Oh, the line is bad. When someone talks about elections, it presupposes the person is.
Can you say that again? The line is very. Repeat that question for me.
No, I'm saying the issue that you are raising at the forefront is the issue of electoral reforms. And if you are not running, then it doesn't matter who wins or who loses. Are you running? Hello?
Now, I think let us not say that again. Let us not trivialize the discourse. This is a serious that requires all hands on deck. And
okay.
we need a systemic approach, we need a structured approach that says, what is the nature, what is the character of our political problems? What is the nature, what is the character of our economic problems? And then we fashion the solutions in a dispassionate manner without any vested political interests in terms of individuals. I'm more keen on a holistic and systemic solution to the Zimbabwean challenges, both political and economic.
Okay,
Professor, as someone who was part of government of national unity, can you tell me what challenges you faced personally as one of the deputy prime ministers?
The line is very bad. Mutumwa, can you do something about the...
No, he's saying...
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think there's a problem with communication. But Professor, in the issue that you were part of the government of, and he wants some specificity and clarity as to what problems you faced.
Oh, I told.
Yeah, I think the network is bad. I suppose. Okay.
Is there a way of refreshing this thing, man? Is there a way of refreshing it?
Okay, you can go out of the meeting.
Yeah.
Can you go out of the meeting and come back?
Okay, go out and come back. Let's see.
Yeah. Hearing me? Is everybody hearing me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Royal Linda Austin? Signoro, can you hear me? Am I being heard or I'm talking to myself? Okay, Simbarashe, thank you. Good. See you. And so let's first hear me. First, oh.
Yeah, I'm back now. Is that it better?
Yeah, I can hear you better.
Yeah, I can hear you also. I think it's better now.
All right. So, Professor, South Africa is a neighbor of Zimbabwe.
Sure.
And South Africa is a signatory of the SADC Treaty.
Okay.
Africa is a signatory of the African Union Constitutive Act.
Mm-hmm.
And you are aware of the judgment in relation to the SADC Tribunal.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you are aware of it.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
All right. Maybe if you are aware of it, you can give us the summary of what that judgment says, so that those who are not aware of it can be up to speed as to what the law is. on this matter?
I think those are Mutunga, those are details. Those are details, and I will not dwell on details for now. We're concentrating on the frameworks, and our discussion is centered on how do we craft the best path to a prosperous Zimbabwe. Let's stay at that high level without getting to the details of the tribunal and its decisions. Safe to say,
because you know why I'm raising it. You know why I'm raising. Professor,
go on, explain.
Yeah, the dispute was in relation to the land reform program. Some of the people approached the SADC tribunal, who were parties, having exhausted domestic remedies. They then obtained judgment against the Zimbabwe government. And the Zimbabwe government simply ignored the SADC tribunal, but didn't stop there. They mobilized SADC to disband the tribunal. The tribunal was then disbanded, which created a problem for the beneficiaries of the judgment. They then approached the South African Constitutional Court, saying South Africa, the president of South Africa, has a duty in terms of the Constitution to uphold the values entrenched in the treaty. And therefore, the decision to disband was irrational, illegal, and unconstitutional, and therefore void. And the South African president at the time had no jurisdiction to associate himself with any measures that actually undermined the judgment or the existence of the tribunal, because the tribunal was established to promote and protect human rights, culture, respect of property. And that judgment was handed down in December of 2018. President Ramaphosa had no choice but to comply with that judgment and do as the court ordered. Is there a human rights problem in Zimbabwe? The answer is yes. Is a problem of the rule of law? The answer is yes. So what is the significance of a South African minister having obtained a judgment against the former president, not making reference to the law, that the law limits the South African president from associating himself with any member state of SADC who undermines the values upon which the SADC treaty was framed and respected. So here we are. You can Google the judgment, you can Google the subsequent actions of the president. I'm sure this question was not raised with the Minister of DECO. That here you are, we have a lot of legislation specific, because earlier on we had a show and people were talking in generalities, talking about Queen Bee, talking about cartels, without any specificity. And people were angry that we can't continue talking in parables. When your neighbor knows that you are mischievous, the neighbor who is a signatory to a treaty must, in terms of the domestic constitution, do what is required. Were you aware of the significance of this judgment?
Well, you keep harping on details. Conference take a formulation of how we can work together to craft the best path to a prosperous Zimbabwe. The details you're outlining are important, but they must be discussed in a much broader sense, in a fuller meeting, and not in the current meeting. Today was not that detailed, but if you are raising, let's take them to the right platform and resolve. What we need to emphasize, these countries must understand that the prosperity of South Africa would depend on the prosperity of SADC. The prosperity of the continent is a function of prosperity or lack of it of the different countries. So we are working together as a continent. But I'm just emphasizing that the level at which you are going, the details in terms of the tribunal, we did not address that, but it must be addressed at the appropriate level at the right time, but not in the forum we have today.
I'm intrigued that you are talking about the future of Zimbabwe without talking about the rule of law. When sanctions are imposed, I'm just intrigued.
No, the rule of law is critical.
If it's critical, then it
is important.
Okay, that's go ahead.
The rule of law is central. The violation of the rule of law is one of those sanctions we are imposing upon ourselves. We must respect the law. We must respect the rule of law. It is fundamental. It is central to the discourse of good governance. We are very clear on that. But in terms of the specific issue you are raising, I think we need more time and the pro platform to address it adequately. To say there should be no compromise on matters of the rule of law.
Okay, there you are. Professor says this meeting had an agenda. That agenda did not get into specifics. And what is your, if you have any comment, can you proceed to talk about Zimbabwe without dealing with the reasons why sanctions exist? And I guess Zidera is limited to this issue of sanctions, of rule of law, that recalibrate your country, remove all laws that impede or undermine progress. And there cannot be any wealth creation without dealing with this fundamental and building block of any progressive nation. So, Professor, you think we can talk of sanctions without SADC member states discharging their obligations in terms of the treaty? Why sign a treaty and invoke in the treaty goals that speak to what Zidera is speaking to, but on the ground having nothing to show for it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got a problem. I agree that there is a challenge around respect for the rule of law. We must address that. I agree that there has been a problem in terms of respecting our own decisions as SADC, our own decisions as countries. We must address that. But before I leave, are there any questions from those who are listening about the discussion today?
Yeah, there is a which say, Mutambara, do you think the rule of law is being practiced by both member states and or government members and citizens of Zimbabwe? Thank you.
Yes,
Then
certainly not. It's not being practiced. That's why we said some of the sanctions we are imposing upon ourselves are in the form of violation of the rule of law, violation of human rights, violation of our own constitution, violation of our people's rights. So there is a challenge there within Zimbabwe which must be addressed, and the rule of law. And also laws that are unconstitutional, laws like the Reconstruction Act, which are constitutional, they are on our books. We must remove those laws from our statutes. As part of the reforms we must carry out in terms of creating a path to a peaceful and democratic Zimbabwe. There is a lot of work to be done. We have challenges.
Okay, there are a lot of questions. Let me just go quickly. Sanction is not an issue worth to talk about. It's just being used as an excuse for poor performance of the economy. Chiwande muchiziva here. Then
now it's
Professor.
Can you say I need to jump up again? I can't hear you.
Okay. No, he was just talking about. I think he was agreeing with you on sanctions.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
What was the question?
So, no, he was agreeing with you that sanctions is not an issue worth to talk about. It's just being used as an excuse.
It's an excuse. It's a very primitive excuse, a bankrupt excuse. You know, we should not entertain that discussion at all. It's a sideshow. We have issues that we control. We have issues that we can do something about. Let us work on that.
And Simbarashe Munemba says, Professor, thank you for eloquently stating the obvious. May I ask your opinion? May I ask your opinion on inherent historical deficiencies brought by colonial powers such as the partition of Africa without African interests being considered? This set a precedent that has seen Africans, in spite of effort, being considered incapable of crafting their own destiny.
Very, very correct. That's why I approached. I share that concern. The way you address that concern is by working together as a bloc. No individual country can address the legacies of slavery and colonialism and neocolonialism on their own. When we work together as a bloc of 1.2 billion Africans with a potential GDP of $2.3 trillion, purchasing power parity $6 trillion, then we'll be able to resolve and address the legacy of colonialism, the legacy of imperialism, and the legacy of the destruction of our systems, our values, and culture by the West. We need to work together under globalization so that we're able to achieve economic prosperity, achieve the deepening of democratic practices in our own countries. That challenge that has been alluded to must be addressed collectively as regions, as the continent, not by individual countries.
Okay, then mismanagement and sanctions are two different things. Let's get our definitions correct. That's Mufuzi.
Say that again.
Mismanagement and sanctions are two different things.
No, that's not correct. When you mismanage, you are imposing sanctions on your people. When you steal the people's money under corruption, you're imposing. When you set your own rule of law, your own people's human rights, you are imposing sanctions on your people. Stop that, resolve that before you go around like a headless chicken, speaking to Europe, speaking to America about removing sanctions. When you are mismanaging a country, no, thank you. They are the same.
Okay, Chigora Joe says, why did Professor's party and other MDC fail to push for the reforms when they were still in government? What
Guilty
can he
is charged? Guilty as charged. That's one of our major failures. The inability to transact and implement reforms was one of the major failures of the inclusive government. So guilty as charged.
Okay. And let's just quickly go through the final comments. You authored, Tinashe says, you authored a book titled Path to Power. When power is inherent in each individual, why not path to the rule of law?
Say that again. That one.
You authored a book titled Path to Power. When power is inherent in each individual, why not path to the rule of law?
Yeah, encourage this person to be a reader. Don't be a bystander. Go and read. Path to Power is the name of the book, but actually, when you read the book, it's Path to Constitution, it's Path to the Rule of Law. Go and read. Don't be lazy.
So, Mr. Mutambara, which government established the rules for the rule of law? Have they been put in place before or after independence? Thank you again.
I think it's work in progress. You know, the advent of independence did not necessarily mean that we now have a new value system, we now have a new culture of governance. It was just the changes of the symbols of power from white public visibility to black public visibility. It's harder to create a new value system. It's harder to create a new society. It's harder to create constitutionalism. It requires social mobilization. It requires education. It requires leadership by example. So it is work in progress. So after independence, we had to continue to deepen our democracy, to deepen our value systems, but we came short. And we must keep working on creating a new society, a new value system, and also constitutionalism and the respect for the rule of law. We must keep on.
And what Joseph Mdekunye says, what could have the $10 billion reportedly misused within 2 years done to the development of our country? There is an allegation that money was abused. Are you aware of that?
Say that again.
There's an allegation that $2 billion was siphoned out of the system in 2 years. And the question is,
the impact of that.
This is an allegation.
Yes. Yeah, I've read those stories, and the quantum is in debate. But what can be seen is that since 2017, after the coup d'etat, there has been rampant corruption to a level that we've never seen before. And it's worrisome because this is supposed to be a new dispensation, but the corruption levels have become so draconian, have become so frightening, which is worrisome because how do you have a regime that is presiding over such looting? Talk about sanctions, talk about America and Europe when we are involved in activities which are being alleged. It's a travesty of justice. It's unacceptable. That's why we are saying, let us work on things that we control, clean up our act, and then we're credible when we reach out to investors, when we reach out to other countries. Charity begins at home. The very fact that we have these rumors, these allegations, is terrible. It's a terrible indictment of us as Zimbabweans.
So there's a Michael Muteke. As you said, that's Michael Muteke. I said, Edicam Cheke, Zimbabwe does not need a transitional government. Zimbabwe, ZANU-PF has 2/3 majority and can make things move if they truly commit. Sanctions.
Yes, that's why we're concerned, because the 2/3 majority is not being useful. We don't have electricity in the country. The doctors are on strike. The economy is broken. That 2/3 majority is not consequential. It's meaningless. Let us see the impact of that 2/3 majority.
Okay. So, Professor, imagine it's midnight and you are asked to look up the stars and look at 3 people in cabinet today you can bank on as custodians of the kind of Zimbabwe that you want to see. Who would be your number one?
I look where?
Imagine you look up the skies and you are looking for a shining star in the cabinet of Zimbabwe. And you were asked to name one person or 3 people you think represent the kind of Zimbabwe you want to see. Is there anyone who comes to your mind?
I think I would not spend too much time on individuals. I think fundamentally, yes, individuals do matter. Yes, individuals make a difference. Fundamental importance is the system that you have, the value
No, you are
system
just asked that. If you
that you have
can't, Professor, if you can't see one, just say, I don't see one. You don't have
in
to.
The current cabinet, or hold on,
Current
in the country
cabinet.
or in the country, in the country. Oh, there's no
Current
one there. No
cabinet.
one. There's
You don't
no one
see
there. All
the president.
Hold on. They're all blind, deaf, and dumb. All of them.
Even the chair of cabinet, you will not give him a.
Blind, deaf, and dumb. Blind, deaf, and dumb.
What are you saying? Are you saying President Mnangagwa is blind, deaf, and dumb as the chairman of the cabinet?
You've said it. You've said it. And
I'm saying, what is your view? This is your independent view. If you were to construct a cabinet and you were to be in charge of mandate.
Yes. If I was in charge, I will not include any one of these people in this current cabinet. I'll throw them away. All of them are incompetent. All of them.
With no exception.
Definitely, without equivocation or ambiguity. They're all content free.
You served with some of them.
Yes,
And
I supervised them, so I know their capacity.
you claim that you supervised them.
Yes.
And what was your rating of them if you were asked by the then late President Mugabe to say, Professor, who will be your number? You still will come to the conclusion that they all don't fit.
Yeah, let's stay with the big picture. Let us stay with the big ideas and discuss individuals. I think it's best for the country.
But don't you think you need a team to implement?
Stay on framework.
No, I'm saying, don't you think you
Say
need
again?
the attitude, the mind, the attitude to change before you can talk about big ideas?
Yeah. So anyway, my considered opinion is that the current crop of cabinet ministers is not a competent one. So I would not involve any one of them in a cabinet. But that's not my concentration.
You're not one of.
I want to concentrate.
Hello?
Say again?
No, I'm saying you
Okay,
would not.
I think that for today we have had a good discussion. I think let's leave it at that, and then we can reconvene.
Yeah, and someone has said, Professor, can you finally tell us what is your assessment of the competence of the opposition?
But what about them?
What is your assessment of the competence?
Why don't we? They have a lot of work to do. It's not enough to be an opponent of the government. It's not enough to be a opposition. It's not enough victim of the system. You must have clarity on your own economic vision. You must have clarity on your own economic strategies. You must have your own competencies, abilities, and value add. So I think the discussion on the opposition, let us leave it for the next time.
All right, so
not enough to be an opponent. You must have a value proposition, you must have an ideology, you must have a vision, and you must have ideas in terms of how you can take the country forward. But let us stop it here for today.
Okay, it's 10 o'clock. Anyway, there you are. That was Professor Mutambara saying, let's deal with big ideas. And your questions are obviously a different angle from the platforms that we get. I guess this platform,
yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward for our discussion next time.
All right, you are okay, and if you need to move, you are excused. And until we meet again, so as we round up, you have your own. You have had the professor speak to you, and it's now your time to do the markings. And you can do your own. Thank you. Thank you, Professor. The professor is gone. And it's what is your rating of Professor on a scale of 1 to what mark would you give him from what he has shared? Would you give him 10 out of 10? That you are satisfied that he has addressed the questions in the manner that you expect? It's your opportunity. Very informative, says Sabina. Zimbabwe is in trouble, indeed. A dead government, a lifeless opposition, This man is brilliantly brilliant. Okay, that's Michael. 9 out of 10, Sabina. Okay, anyone else who wants to weigh in? 5, Simbarashe. So anyone with a mark? So do you want to get my rating? Is anyone interested in my summary? Okay. Professor Vapei nguva vazotaura more. Faith Mukudu. So, do you want me to give my own summary? Faith, 9 out of 10. Okay, my rating is simple. Zimbabwe is in problem. And because people want to define what agenda that should be discussed on a public forum, here we are, we ask specific questions about the obligation of SADC in underpinning a reforming Zimbabwe. No discussion at all took place. What we are being told is reforming elections, fully knowing that he who is controls the government who win the election. There's no other reform other than a coup d'etat that enabled the success of the coup authors. Here we are trying to link the rule of law, and we are told, no, you can't discuss that. We are not ready to discuss that. When are we ready to discuss these specific questions and generalities? How do you assess the performance of ministers? Is it fair and just when somebody has won? What is it that we need to reform a democracy that produces what it produces? We have no mechanism of manipulating what the rule of vote is and can be. That we know. What is new? What can be done to convert those who think they know better, those who think they can be on platforms and tell you what to say and give you what can be discussed today and what can be discussed tomorrow. When the heat is on, people simply withdraw. They don't want to address the questions, saying it's not appropriate, like your students. How long can we go being treated as we are not mature to ask the question? How can South Africa side with Zimbabwe when a judgment of court exists, which the president of South Africa can or cannot do, instead of pushing for compliance so that South Africa can do what is right for South Africa? How do we get people to get out of this ivory tower when they think they know everything because they were in previous governments, even if the government didn't do anything? How did we get here? 9 years. We need to be mindful of demagogues who criticize everybody. I can't take away what Chamisa has done. He got people to vote, got people to be excited. That doesn't require you to be an intellectual. The one who must be in government not be a specialist. Then why elect? Because elections are not capable of producing specialists. Even those who have first-class degrees, it doesn't mean they're first class to understanding the common man's problem. But without the rule of law, there is no prosperity. The rule of law is a fundamental tenet of any progressive society. When somebody says the rule of law is not urgent, it's not important, then you must fasten your seatbelt because you are in a shithole. Imagine you work so hard for somebody to come and harvest the fruits of your, and somebody says it's not important. Let's not discuss it here. But where should we discuss it? We are not interested in hearing people's voices. So if there was a marking, I'll give 2 out of 10. 2 just as a bonus. Because we didn't come here to talk about things that affect people. We want people to be angry. That here you have a meeting to talk about the future of Zimbabwe. Everybody says they are concerned about the climate of the rule of law. And then we can make progress without addressing the elephant in the room. So this is assess individuals because they were appointed by a president who believes he's a popular president. He believes he was elected. He believes he's a man of God and God is in it. But what is on the ground cannot be God's plan. Why would God give life only to take away in hospitals that are not functioning? Only to take away life in a system that is dysfunctional? Why would God be so mean to give life those who run away from the shit wall, do well in other countries where there's no president of theirs? They just stick to their lane, accumulate what they can accumulate. Why is it that Zimbabwe has so many people who pretend to know better? They tell you what must be discussed, but the last 39 years has not produced a solution. There are no names. If you say there's corruption, name them. Let's name and shame them. It's your government. There can never be comfort in sitting on this chair and coming to this platform. Then you give us nonsense so that we can invite you again to talk about what? We are tired of talking. If there is a judgment, we should be talking about how do we test that judgment? Surely, how can South Africa say sanctions must go without saying the rule of law must be restored? How can we do that? We need to be truth. So we'll try to bring people and let's put them to the test. Because some want to be your president tomorrow. You salute them. When they become president, they call you mediocre, they call you stupid. Yet they need your vote. That vote must not be stupid. You must wake up. Never give somebody trust they have not earned. Never give someone in government the benefit of the doubt because it's your government. It's your public property. It's like assets. It's your public property. They must be accountable to you. You must be suspicious. You must be superstitious. Otherwise, they'll bullshit you and tell you you don't think, you're stupid. The question is stupid. How can a voter's question be stupid? How can elections be stupid? Huh? Why have them? If there are no elections, then what? An NTA, National Transitional Authority, where gentlemen choose each other based on the best English, and they form a government to administer your affairs. So be careful. It's your fault. Discuss today. Let's elevate. Let's ask the South African government, why is it that you signed the SADC treaty, then abandon it in the interest of comradeship? If you sign something, honor it. And that's all we are asking. And not do what is required to be done. And Manja says, I'm broke, and you send me $300 chete. I wish, Mandla, I will pray for you. I got a pastor who can give you $300 because he can create money. I'm not a magician. I am not God. I'm not Jesus. So here we are. Just hold on. Let's finalize with Mishana. Thank you.
Yes, the network was really bad.
Yeah, the network was bad. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean the professor. I mean he does say things of substance which we can all relate to, but there is a fundamental difference between the things that he clubs into one. The definition of what sanctions are is very clear, whether it's in sociology or in politics. We know what sanctions are. They are penalties that are imposed for whether it's a person or an institution for not following a rule. And that is very clear. Now, he is trying to say the fact that the government is not delivering, then it is in essence imposing sanctions on its own people. Now that's really different. There is corruption everywhere. We don't hear of uh, the United Kingdom government being accused of imposing sanctions on its people. There is sanctions in there is corruption in America. I mean, Trump is going through the impeachment process. We don't hear of sanctions on the American people because of that kind of behavior. So we really need to make clear what these definitions.
Are you making? We were close. What making? Michelle, are you? Jana, are you making? So I'm still.
Can you? Well, what I'm simply saying is there's a difference between
No,
mismanagement.
we're just saying that the professor from a scale of 1 to 10, and some people did rate him. So we're just summing up.
So I'm rating him in terms of what? Sorry, maybe I.
No, what he has presented.
No, I think it was fair. I would give him a 6 out of 10. I think he managed to touch most of the things that are important.
Yeah, out of a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give him?
I would give him a 6.
Okay, that's good.
I disagree with some of the in terms of those definitions because they cloud the picture. and they can affect how.
No, that's fine. That's all we want for people to measure, and we got on with it. And my point was that I'll give him a 2 out of 10.
Okay, and why?
Because what you were saying, he was trying to limit discussion to frame it in his own, to hear his own voice, which was not necessary.
But I think he was responding to questions that were being asked, and he.
No, I'm giving you my.
Okay.
Is a SADC is a body of member states, and South Africa has got already an adverse judgment from the Concord regarding the attitude of the former president in relation to Zimbabwe matters, and that judgment was a final judgment of the apex court. The current president, is implementing it. So the concerns about human rights, property rights, are already acknowledged by the Concord. And Concord's view is once you are...
Which Concord? South African Concord.
That's right. Once you are a member...
Wait. So this judgment is in line with property rights enshrined in which constitution?
No, this is to do with the disbanding of the SADC tribunal following an adverse judgment against Zimbabwean government in relation to the matters of land.
Yeah, so I want to ask you, that's correct. So I want to follow your argument, and I want us to get to this point, isn't it? In a very transparent way. So my question to you is, the judgment was based on which law, which constitutional law was it basing its judgment?
It was based on South African constitutional constitution.
And does that make sense to you? That
that if you have acceded to a supranational body and you have said you are party to a treaty, you have a duty to uphold that treaty, the provisions of that.
Are you saying SADC follows the South African constitution?
No, what they're saying is South African president is bound by the constitution of South Africa not to associate with any measures that are ultra virus the constitution of South Africa. They are not.
And I think I misunderstood you. I thought you were talking about the judgment against Mugabe.
No. They are saying that South Africa does not have a right to interfere with the affairs. But equally, the president of South Africa, once he has taken an oath, he has to uphold and protect any law, whether domestic or international.
Yes.
Yeah. So South Africa is barred, the president is barred from any mischief or associating in a crowd of groupies who are doing mischief.
So in essence, you're saying South Africa should not associate itself with Zimbabwe?
No, that's what the court says. Only where the mischief is. South Africa cannot be party to any measures that undermine the rule of law.
But Mutuma, which rule of law are we talking about? That is
the SADC treaty. We will discuss the SADC treaty. Then I'll show you.
And then this is where I want to go. The SADC treaty, right? This is the part that I want us to then deal with, isn't it? Maybe not today, but I want
not today. But I'm just saying that's what we summarize so that you understand why it's 2 out of 10. That why because this meeting was not held in Zimbabwe, you know that.
Yes.
It was held in South Africa and convened and presided over by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who must be alive to South Africa's limitations.
Anyway, let's not preempt the meeting, but I'm very much interested in.
No, the meeting has already taken place.
No, I'm talking about. Mtungwa, I'm talking about the discussion.
All
Because
right,
I
we'll
think
discuss that, but for those
need to
people who
take
are
into account
listening,
the United
we come.
Nations
I hope
resolution.
this point is understood because we can't continue.
Well, we need to understand what your understanding is in terms of the 1960
That's what I'm saying
resolution.
is that we'll give you an opportunity, Mshana. But for now, Professor was saying, let's
Because we can't have a question where we have one group saying something is illegal when the main group is saying that action, the complete action of independence of Zimbabwe was illegal.
so
And
let's
then you
just check
don't
with
want
our
to
audience. Let's just check with the people we have today. People, are you interested in digging deeper on this matter? If you are interested, just type yes or no, so that we can have a discussion. So if you are interested, just type yes. So we take the first 5. If it's yes, then we know that there's some interest.
Well, I
Yes,
think
yes.
it's absolutely important that we present the facts the way they are and see where they lead us, where the evidence leads us. Not to just
Okay,
take
we are getting there. Shana, don't preempt. Let's Raj Mahach says yes. So here we are. There's no. So thank you very much for giving up your time. Thank you, Mfuzi and Mr. M. Thank you, Sabena, for being there. That's when we say banking on Africa's future. We are saying let's have a bank of the future. Let's not have people with too many degrees who think they know too much when they know nothing. Let's
Mumake fair. 2 out of 10.
let's get on with the job. Zimbabwe is burning, and we think it's business as usual. Let's get pissed off. Senor, just say I'm pissed off. Simbarashi, just say I'm pissed off. We can.
So anyway.
Okay, thank you very much.
Until next time then.
Until next time, Shana is begged his lips, so that's it. Just be pissed off by something. If it's me,
that's what
pissed
brings
off.
me here, because you can't be talking about the SADC treaty and ignoring the United Nations resolution on independence. That makes no sense.
So let's not have an economy. Zimbabwe is in ICU, and there are no doctors. Zimbabwe is burning, and we are what? At a picnic. Huh? Simbara says, I'm not pissed off anymore. I'm just defeated. Let's get that feeling out. Let's get the feeling I'm pissed off. Just pissed off. You have a right to be pissed off. This is your government. You can't be polite. Don't be polite. So, Signor wants to be added. I've sent the link before, but he doesn't pick it up. So, Signor, don't be pissed off to be blind. Just see the link, but not for today. We have heard Professor. Let's thank him for giving up time, because it's not easy for people to give up time. Some give up time grudgingly so that they promote their brands. Some give up time because genuinely they want to learn. And let's celebrate people who want to learn from others. Let's not come with prescripts. Let's not come with a script, with a prescription, because Zimbabwe is not a human patient. It's all of us to the core. And when we don't get pissed off and we defer to others to tell us who is right, who is wrong, we have a shitty system. Democracy is in us. But there's no better us than a democracy. So let's celebrate the outcomes of democratic projects. There are many people who think they know better, but the public is not interested. Don't begrudge the public. That's the system we have. You have now time to talk to the public. Imagine we give a politician or somebody who pretends to be one a platform and they tell you no, not now, tomorrow. Then they are not hungry. They are not angry. So let's give the platform to those who are angry so that they are pissed off and they can do something about it. It's not time for conversation. It's time to know what time it is. Thank you very much. We'll accommodate you, but thank you very much for everybody. I'm tired, not pissed off, loss of strength. No, it's your country. I don't have. So, Sabena, if I had a solution, I'll be God. I'm not God. I don't even. My mind is empty, just looking for what I need to eat and wait tomorrow. So I keep going until the end comes to an end. But before it does come to the end, I'll just keep going, step by step. So, Sabrina, there is no reason for me to pretend I know anything. I'm not even a judge of anybody. If you're a minister, be the best servant there is, best idiot there is. Listen to the people. Don't tell the people you know what they are thinking, because you don't. So know what I don't know. That's enough, Sabrina. I have no solution, but I have the power to criticize others, but not to judge them. I know what bullshit is. So there are many people who are too important to be on these platforms. If it was BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, Hard Talk, or whatever it is, they will be jumping and say it was a good show, because that's where they belong. Thank you, everybody. So that's it at the end of our show.